never with a guest. I think only our
No,
own.
it was a solo one.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the...
I didn't record.
There was either noise not on or something was the mics not on?
Yeah,
The
something
mics
like
weren't on, yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of The Powerful Project. Today we have Coach Chaos here,
Hi.
aka Corey,
That's
but we
me.
call him Chaos.
Yeah.
You are a boxing coach. We met at the 25-hour starting line event. What a bonding time to exercise and run for 25 hours.
Sort of a trauma bond, really.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought we'd bring you on today to talk a little bit about your journey and moving over from New Zealand and kind of taking a leap of faith, really. And then, just general life chat as well.
Cool.
So
fun.
if our listeners don't know who you are, do you want to give us a brief background of who you are, what you do, why Chaos?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm a hooligan. No, I am a boxing coach from New Zealand, like you've said. It's funny when people always ask like who you are or what you are, because you're like, you sort of attach your identity to what you do mostly.
Yeah,
you know?
who am I?
Yeah.
What am I here for?
And then when you're asked, you're like, oh, I'm a scallywag,
But you're so much more.
I'm this, I'm that, yeah. So I think the easy answer is always boxing coach, right? But and you'd know our club it's about more than just boxing. So we try to look a little bit deeper into ourselves as well. So I guess what I like to say is I'm a great friend.
Oh, I love it.
Or at least trying to be a great friend, and then I translate that into all my things that I do, I suppose. I was going to say work. I'm trying to stay away from the whole work thing, but
Just doing 25 hours of running and stuff.
yeah, just doing 25-hour mental health marathons and trying to do some breath works from time to time, and then in between I punch people. Or while having a bit of a laugh as well, because life's a bit too serious sometimes.
What brought you over from New Zealand?
From New Zealand, yeah. So like any great story, it was off the back of heartbreak. I feel like I was going through sort of like an existential crisis a little bit,
We've all been there.
Yeah. When you think you found the one, right? And then it turns out that they're not. And then you start questioning your whole life. Right? So I feel like I sort of maybe went off the rails a little bit. Not in the unhealthy ways like what I would have used to have done when I was younger, but in sort of like a shell, cut everyone out, try to do everything myself kind of way, right? And then it just dawned on me one day that I was being silly. So I thought, well, nothing's really holding me here in New Zealand anymore, because to be fair, it was her that I was staying for. And then I thought, well, I'll put some feelers out there and just sort of see what's around. I already had some friends here, so that was helpful. It wasn't sort of like stepping into the complete unknown. So I reached out to them, and they'd been trying to get me over here for a long time anyway, so they were pretty stoked about it, and accommodating, of course, which is always half the battle, I think, finding places to live and whatever else. So I thought, well, I can't just go over there and do nothing, right? So I was scrolling the wide web and our good friend Seek to look for work. And what was interesting is I hadn't been coaching at this point in New Zealand. I was actually doing something completely different, which I let go of pretty quickly and easily because, again, not really my purpose, or I wasn't super passionate about it. It was sort of just a, make money sort of a thing. And so I didn't have coaching in my mind at all when I was looking for work to come here. I was just scrolling Seek pretty willy-nilly, actually. No, I didn't put any prompts in. I just put Perth, WA. Right?
Let's see what comes up.
Yeah, and just see what comes up, I'm scrolling, and then I see an ad for Good Vibes Boxing. And I sort of thought to myself, well, I like good vibes and I like boxing. And I'd always sort of said to my friends and family and stuff that I'd like to get back into boxing. Just never really, I suppose, probably didn't try very hard either, but I felt like I didn't have the means at the time, or wasn't super passionate about it. Really sort of lost kind of energy, I suppose. But then when I saw that and I read this sort of synopsis, if you like, or the little summary job description that he put on there, I just sort of resonated a little bit. He's Ben, but he speaks quite, and sort of, I say he's quite stoic. He probably will hate hearing that, but I think he's stoic, right? And the way it read was...
Called stoic by a guy, I imagine, is the highest honour.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I've thought to myself recently that it seems like any guy that decides to better themselves in some way sort of falls on stoicism to some degree.
What's that question? Like, how often are you thinking about the Roman Empire?
The Roman Empire, yeah.
Always like every day.
Every day, Marcus Aurelius, he's my guy.
Yeah, it's a funny side story. Sorry to jump in.
No, you do.
My partner loves him as well.
Oh, really?
He
Yeah.
loves it. And we went to Rome a few years ago, and we had to go and see all the Marcus
Of
Aurelius
course.
statues.
Yeah.
Because that was his guy, and he had to go see him.
It's true though, like
Whatever works.
yeah, every guy gets to this sort of self-development
It's
point. It's something that's easy to connect with, I guess. It's quite masculine as well, I feel like, and that's missing in men today. So I think they sort of latch onto it a little bit, myself included, right? What was I saying? Why I came here?
Calling Ben
the
stoic.
the stoic. The job description just read very, as I say, stoically. So I just thought, why not? I'll just send him a cover letter and my CV and such. And obviously I've had a few years under my belt in coaching and boxing and stuff. I just wasn't immediately involved with it at that point in time. And he messaged me back 5 minutes later. It was pretty quick. I sent him the email, and then he must have been sitting at his laptop at the time, which, if you know him, he's not on technology very often. So, we try to say it was meant to be. We feel like it was meant to be. And he responded, and he said, "Look, you sound like somebody that we could be interested in. Can I call you?" And I said, "Yeah, let's go." He called me, and we sort of just vibed out on the phone for it was almost an hour. It was about 45 minutes or so. It was like we were long-lost friends, and we kind of opened up to each other immediately and talked about some past issues and where we were at certain times of our lives and where I was at that point in time as well. The journey of development and mental health and all these things, and which are all things that he's very passionate about and incorporates in good vibes at the gym there. So it was almost like a no-brainer, but he finished the conversation by saying, this sounds crazy, and like obviously I don't have anything to offer you right now. We don't know if you're going to fit in or if you'll like it here or whatever, but I've got a men's workshop next week, and if you're willing, if you want to come over and be a part of that, I'd love to have you. And I was like, am I allowed to swear on here, by the way? Yeah. I was like, fuck it. Why not? So I had about 4 days to tell everybody back home and move out of my place and whatever to come to Perth.
Wow.
So I pretty much gave everything away that I had that wouldn't fit in my bag or one box, and I bought a one-way plane ticket. I was flying out on the Saturday or Friday, and I told my mum on the Wednesday that I was leaving. I don't know when I'll be back, And she was like,
How did she handle that?
She was pretty cool about it, My mum's pretty great. She's one of those people that have always been like, just try it. If it doesn't work, try something else, do what makes you happy. She's that person, So she's always been very supportive in my wacky. And I can tell you I've done a lot of weird things. So it was great to have that support and stuff. Obviously, it was tough to say goodbye to my brother and sister and my friends and, everyone that you have to say goodbye to. But as soon as I got on that plane and pulled up to the airport and walked out, it was like a weird energy I felt. And I don't know, I might have placebo affected that a little bit, but I felt like I want to be here, A friend of mine picked me up from the airport. We went straight to a bar, as you do, right? Met a couple of people there. That was great. And then the next day, I was to be at Good Vibes Boxing at 8 a.m. to sort of meet everybody and start this workshop. And I obviously didn't have a car yet either, so I caught a train, which I've never done that before, and that freaked me out, right? And then I got to East Perth, and I found the place, and I must have walked around it about 4 times before I built up the courage to walk in. And I was first too, which was even worse because I would have liked to have kind of like maybe snuck in,
Yeah.
But
That's why I'm always late to parties.
Correct. Yeah, see, you get me. I do the same thing. And I walked in, and obviously I'm greeted by all the boys there, and Steve, who I think you've met as well. He's a 9D breathwork facilitator. He was taking us on this breathwork that day, and my friend Dave, who's got a mental health charity, which was great to meet him. And then I got to meet Ben for the first time. Obviously I'd only heard him on the phone, and all these guys are just embracing me and stuff. And I'm no stranger to hugging guys, but it just felt different. You know what I mean? They weren't, how guys kind of hug, but it's like
It's like,
you know what I mean? Yeah, it was like a real embrace, you know, and I really felt the love from these guys, and then all those fears that I had walking in were immediately gone. So that was cool. And then we got into the workshop, of course. But yeah, I just left that workshop thinking, yeah, I'm in the right place, and I obviously haven't left. So yeah.
It's been a year, just over a year now.
Nah, I got here in September, start of
Oh.
September. So it's been
Not a year
like
yet.
7 months maybe, or just about, I think. Yeah.
I must have missed it, and I thought it was a year, but it's
Yeah,
6 months then.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
when I met you, I'd been here 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like, yeah, it was very, and even like looking back at photos from that day, I was a different dude as well. Dude, I've never said that. Different guy. Yeah. I was a different guy.
You had nothing better to do than coming to Perth and going straight into a 25-hour endurance event.
Yeah.
Welcome.
With zero training.
Zero training.
Yeah.
We did it.
We did it. We got through. Made some great friends, yourself included, and Becky, another friend. I catch up with her quite a lot too. And then like Dave and Steve. Funnily enough, after this, I'm helping Steve with the breath work. So
There you go.
yeah.
Spiral from there.
Yeah. So everything's kind of like come full circle a little bit from when I got here to today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've just touched on it earlier as well with the identity crisis, or we putting our identity into work, and it's something that I used to do a lot. And even now, when I introduce myself to people, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a PT. I can't be bothered giving them the full backstory and everything, so I just go like, oh, whatever, I'm a PT.
Yeah.
But I interestingly had this conversation with my brother this morning, and he was like, I don't know what to do, and travel and do this and do that. I'm like, it is such a journey. And I said to him, like, you're going to have this thinking every couple of months from now on. Welcome. I'm like, I wish I could give you some smart advice. But I was like, I think I've had like 5 identity crises in the last like few months.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I was like, it's just part of the journey. But do you have anything where you're like, that has helped you, or because you've obviously done like the breakup was one of the biggest steps for you to get out of your comfortable,
Yeah.
I guess, because you had like a job that was comfortable, quote unquote, and a comfortable life. But yeah, is there anything that you've learned?
Yeah. Interesting you say comfortable, because I often say that a lot of us are comfortably numb, right? It's like, your job pays you pretty well, maybe your relationship isn't like super bad, but it's not great either, maybe they don't hit you, like, but they don't give you much love or whatever, but you're just like, wow, but he got me flowers that time. It's like, it's comfortable, but comfortably numb, and then your work is the same. It's just giving you all the things that you need to survive, right, and live okay. But you sort of get stuck in that place, and I was certainly there for sure. I was kind of like, but I've always also been someone who's like, this isn't enough. Like, I need more. I'm missing something. But I think I framed it a little bit different when I was in that sort of stuck feeling, and I didn't frame it very great either, So I think what happened and I actually have a tattoo of a dice on my arm because I always say roll the dice, and the reason I say that is because I think that's how you get out of those slumps, is you just take a shot at whatever it is that it's something if you're like, there's this feeling inside that's like, I want to try that, but I'm too scared. Like, that's when you need to try it.
Yeah, I was going to say, because not everyone will have the courage. Like,
No.
booking a one-way ticket, you have to be a bit brave.
And I'd never been here before at all.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was walking into, Ben could have been not Ben. Could have been some other guy, Maybe I was walking into a dungeon, I don't know. But I rolled the dice, and it was the best dice roll ever. And my friends back home and my mum and stuff would probably say that I've always been a bit of a dice roller, but wasn't always for the greatest reasons, So to finally, I guess, like, take the chance and the risk on something that I knew in my stomach felt like it was the right thing to do, I'm obviously always going to be grateful for that. And I think that was just the biggest step. And I don't know how you get to that point. Maybe it is. I mean, heartbreak was probably something that galvanized me into thinking, man, I need something else, or And I've walked down the path of the negative side, the drugs and alcohol and whatever else, all those coping mechanisms to get through all these other previous heartbreaks that you quote unquote have, right? And then the one I had with my last relationship was a turning point for the better instead of walking down like I say, the negative side. So, yeah, I don't know if it's like a thing that you just do it. Like, it's just like it's hard to explain it unless you're there, I suppose. And I have these conversations with people all the time. It's like we can give everyone all the tools in the world, but until they reach that point and make that choice themselves, and it doesn't matter what you say, right? And I've certainly had a bunch of tools in the lead up to that, and I could have used them at any point, whenever. But never did it because I didn't feel like maybe it was a bit of a worth thing as well. But until I decided to like choose me fully, then it all fell into place after that. Yeah. So if I was to say anything, I'd say roll the dice, take a risk, and choose yourself.
That's good. Good advice. Capture that.
Capture that, yeah.
And I wanted to ask, at the beginning, you asked, why is call yourself Coach Chaos?
Chaos.
Is that to do with a similar energy from what you just mentioned?
Yeah. So depends who you ask. They'll say it's self-proclaimed. I know some of my friends will giggle at that because I hear it all the time. Like, oh, he made it up himself or whatever. It was actually a friend of mine said, I was basically explaining that a few things I was going through, right? Situationships, and I was kind of in and out of different workplaces, and I was trying to do 3 things at once and whatever. And she said, oh, you're sort of like Corey Chaos. And I was like, I kind of like that. and then I sort of took it and ran with it, and then as you do with your identity shifts, as you change your Instagram handle, right? And it used to be it was Corey's Chaos to start with, and it was basically, in my mind, it was symbolizing like, I try to do a bit too much, but I own that, and I'm the calm in the chaos, and then it's sort of evolved over time, and then I started to obviously be preferred to be called Chaos, and moving to WA, it sort of amplified it even more because everyone at work calls me Chaos. Like if you call me Corey, I almost don't hear it now. And then again, like I say, I changed my Instagram handle again to Coach Chaos, right? Because that's where all identity shifts begin.
Yes, your Instagram handle.
your social media. So I guess the answer to that question is I've always tried to do maybe too much, and have lived quite chaotically. If to put my life in one word, it would have been chaos if you were to look at it from the outside. Right now, I feel like I don't live up to the name as much in the old definition of it, but I feel like now it still makes sense for me, and it is a bit of
chaos.
And then
I feel like
I'm calm in the chaos,
Positive chaos, because you still do a lot.
Yeah, I do.
Of different things, But now the shift is probably more like into a more positive direction.
Yeah.
The chaos is a good chaos.
The chaos, that's right. And I always say, this is probably the Leo in me coming out a little bit, but I'm always like, what started the universe? No one can answer me, and I say it started out of chaos. Yeah. So it's just like nice, playful and fun as well, and obviously it was a fight name at some point as well, so it's kind of just circled back around, but as why you asked me out there before, what do you want me to introduce as, I do prefer being called Chaos. Sorry, Mum. I've always told her when I was growing up I didn't like my name, so
finally doing it.
I like it.
And so have you found since landing here in Perth, it does sound like it was a bit of a catalyst for lots of different positive influences in your life, and using that chaos and that energy for new and exciting and helpful ventures.
Yeah.
So what sort of stuff do you do now? So you're a boxing coach.
Yeah.
You're involved in breath work and that style, like men's health workshops and stuff like that?
I mean, it's definitely started off as sort of off the back of the men's workshop, and I didn't specifically sort out only working with men, and in fact, funnily enough, most of my clients are women.
Boxing clients,
yeah. So I guess I'm a boxing coach by trade, if you like. I've recently started working with Steve quite often in facilitating breathworks, and again, it's men and women that come to those. He works with 9D breathwork mostly, so the works mostly done by the headphones, to be fair. But we, you know, it's always nice to hold space for people, and if they are going through some things in the midst of those breathworks, to having a calming energy and somebody catch you if you need to be caught, I quite enjoy to hold space for people in that way. And then as part of Good Vibes, we often try to collaborate with other people and put other things together. Recently we did a boxing and a sound healing event, for example, with my good friend Luke Kalani, who's a sound healer. And so, you know, being around that sort of energy's been nice to feel and take into boxing as well, which we thought was going to be weird. You know, boxing's quite physical and quite, I guess, can be aggressive if you want it to be. And then sound healing is almost the opposite. So to have that like duality was really interesting, and they actually did complement each other quite well. So looking forward to doing a little bit more in that regard. But I always say we're boxing coaches, but like I said before, our motto is it's about more than just boxing. It really is. We use boxing as the vehicle, but the goal is actually to help people be better people, really. You know, that's not to say we're the best people, right? And
Self-development.
we feel that we have experienced enough life that we can at least be like a holding hand in that journey with our members and clients and so on. And Ben and I always say it would be great to figure out a way to have passive income, because we'd do this for free. You know, that's how you know you love what you're doing. And unfortunately, the, I guess, exchange of energy is monetary, and so we have to include that. But that's not why we do it. You know, and that's what I love, and it's aligned with me. Well, I've aligned with that rather. You know, I've always wanted that. I've always seeked that, and didn't know where to start. And I feel like in New Zealand, maybe I could have found it, but just wasn't around the right people. And so to have the breakup and then be galvanised and to come to WA and then to meet these great people, and then all of a sudden I'm in that alignment of purpose is, you know, it's hard to say that stuff wasn't necessary for me to go through to end up here, I suppose.
Do you feel like stepping out of your previous environment made it easier for you to become the person that you are now?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think there's a mindset and an energy attached to certain environments, you know, and you could have the strongest mind ever, but the saying, the quote rather, one bad egg ruins the bunch, I think's extremely accurate, you know. And it felt like that. And I'm not saying my friends and stuff were terrible people back home, because they're not, but they're definitely comfortably numb where they are, you know, and that works for them, and that's fine. They got families and kids, and they buy their houses and they work in their jobs, and for the most part they're pretty happy. But that was not enough for me, you know. and I've always felt a bit out of place. And when I got to WA, I didn't feel out of place. So, which was really new for me as well, because from since I was a little kid, I felt out of place often, a lot. Always felt like by myself, really, even though I was always surrounded by people, which is a weird thing to think about. You know, how can you feel lonely in a group of people? But I did.
Is that why you went back and did the solitude? What you used to?
Yeah.
Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah. Do you mean before I moved here? Yeah. So I'd been doing van life for a little bit, and it was just me and a friend, and we were travelling around. But we had our own vans as well, so I wasn't with them all the time, right? And we're travelling around New Zealand, and we're doing little jobs here and there just to kind of fund the trip, really. And I did enjoy it, and it was great to have him as company from time to time. But I did start to really love being by myself, probably a little bit too much, I think, as well. And then so when I finished that journey and I came home, I still didn't want to be around people. And I didn't know that at the time. I just thought that I was, you know, living my best monk life, you know, and I was journaling, and I was doing meditations, and I was reading, and I was doing all these things that I thought were the things that you had to do to be a good person, right? Because again, at that point of time, I definitely questioned, you know, myself a lot. You know, are you a good person? Are you doing the things that good people do? Oh wow, this is what good people do. Monks seem to have no issues. I'll just do what they do, right? And I took it way too serious. And so when I did come home, I found a place, and it was by chance actually. A good friend of mine, Katie, her parents live out in the country, and they had a pool house out in the country there. I was ages away from everything. So she asked if
It's easy in
her
New
parents
Zealand as
asked,
well to
yeah.
be ages away from
Oh,
everything.
yeah, because everything's ages away, you know. And her parents asked if I wanted to live there, and I was like, yeah, it's out in the wilderness, you know, there's trees around, you know, it's not like it wasn't luxurious. It was a pool house after all, like, you know, but I was away from society, which is what I wanted, you know. And yeah, I really did isolate myself and started to really enjoy the isolation until I didn't. You know, and then I started to crave connection again, and I was like, well, how am I going to get that if I'm staying here and I'm just sitting outside in the sun with my eyes closed, you know? Yeah. Like, so one, I'm emptying my mind, and then I'm not looking at people or being around people. It's like, how are you supposed to connect? And I did start to think, I don't know how to speak to people anymore. I don't know, you know, am I a little bit weird now? You know, like all these thoughts. I'm like, how do you even start talking to people? And it's like, why don't I just start talking to my friends again? Because I stopped doing that too. You know, I was so isolated that I even forgot everyone else. Right. But eventually, I started to reach out and start hanging out again, and I just felt uncomfortable, like extremely uncomfortable. And I was like trying really hard to be around the people that I do love, but their life wasn't my life, you know. I couldn't connect with the things that they were doing, like, you know, how's the kids? I don't know what that's like. I don't have kids. Right. And I also find babies weird. Right? You know, like, like, surely hold your own heads, you know what I mean? And then, you know, a lot of my friends have kids that are at the age now where they're asking questions and stuff, and some of these kids ask some crazy questions, you know, and I answer them.
Deeply intelligent questions.
Yeah, but I'll answer them honestly, you know.
Yeah.
Like one of my, he calls me uncle now, but he
Uncle
asked.
Chaos or Uncle Corey?
Just uncle, actually. Yeah, just uncle. But he asked me if I could be his dad once. You know what I mean? And I was like, definitely not. And he said, why? And I was like, because your mum's ugly. Like, I was joking, but he thought I was being serious. So he's obviously running around the house going, "Shame, mum, you're ugly," you know. And yeah. And but I have like, if they ask me real questions, I'll give them real answers, and I think, I don't know, I think it's the right thing to do, but apparently you're supposed to speak to kids a little bit differently, right? So again, I just really struggled to connect with them and their issues and stuff like that at the time. I'm a bit more empathetic and compassionate towards it now, but at the time I was definitely struggling with the connecting part, and then I met Kayla. And then all of a sudden, I was receiving all those connections that I had been craving, you know. So then when I don't like to say lost her, because she's not lost, right? It just didn't work, right? Eventually, but that's what it feels like. It feels like you mourn, like it's the weirdest thing ever is mourning someone who's alive, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, she taught me a lot in terms of like, I wanted connection. I know I can connect with people if I want to, and I'm able, and I was able to also see that I have the capacity to be what I thought I couldn't be before her, you know. So I take all those lessons, and I'm appreciative and grateful for her still, even now. I think she's like one of the greatest people ever. Like, so you know, it's hard to be upset about it at the same time. Which
you can hold both, like be extremely grateful for an experience and still mourn the loss of that experience too.
Yeah, and I often talk about, you know, sometimes it's not even so much that you miss the person, it's just you miss how they made you feel, you know, and who you were or are with them. And then you realise, well, I'm actually all those things still. It's just she helped you see it, or they helped you see it, or whoever, you know. But it's been inside you the whole time. So once I sort of grabbed onto that, and I was like, hey, yeah, she's still great and all those things, and don't take any credit away from her for showing me some light in what I thought was a dark world, you know. But at the same time, yeah, I am still those things, you know. And yeah, I often say like, thank you for. Sometimes I just send it out into the ether, you know. Thank you for showing me that.
Do you feel like working through that heartbreak and the connection piece has now made you a better coach?
Yeah. It's almost like steered me into feeling a bit more comfortable in that coaching role as well, you know, because I think connection's the hardest part, and I used to fake it a lot.
Really all connection with coaching.
That's right.
Like if you don't vibe with the client, it's not going to happen, is it?
No.
The
And
client
they
don't vibe
often,
with you.
well, that's right, yeah. And you know, I could fake it for a long time when I was coaching before I came here. You know, it's just you could pretend to be, but that's draining.
Yeah.
Who wants
Did
to
you
do
think
that?
inauthenticity was what was making you feel so like just desperate to isolate yourself?
For sure.
And then learning it and actually connecting properly with people found it really fulfilling.
Exactly that, yeah. And it gives you more energy. Like I can do more because, you know, it's not a front anymore. It's real. And I often say we don't have energy, we create it. And so, you know, to have the right people around you and have the right clients and bring the right attitudes and have the right intentions, and then that energy starts to build within you. And like I can have 4 hours sleep and still be, you know, sharp and witty and all the things that you need to be to help people, or at least hold their hand on the way to being the best versions of themselves, which is at the core of why we do what we do.
Yeah.
It's definitely at the core of why I do what I do, you know. But yeah.
With us, obviously, we only coach girls. You
Yeah.
said most of your clients are girls. Is there anything that you find is quite different to, I guess, training girls and training the guys, or hosting the men mental health retreats? Because, I don't know, I've been told off before for not including guys into the work I do, but I do think there needs to be a space for both.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think girls need to have their own space, but so do guys. And I think the guys' mental health is obviously on the decline, which is why all the events are on the rise. And I think it's really important that guys have a space to go to as well, but so do the girls. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about that a little bit.
Yeah. Female clients are interesting because you know, a younger chaos will definitely approach those a little bit differently. I actually had this conversation not long ago, might have been 2 days ago even, about when I first started coaching and when I had, because I had a lot of female clients back then too, but as the years went on, I realised I only had them because they thought I was good looking, which was like not what you want, because then, you know, you feel like, I don't know, I felt like a piece of meat, to be honest. You know, which I would assume is how like you would feel too, but if guys were only coming to you because they felt that you were good looking.
That's why I
right?
stopped training guys.
Yeah, you know, and
That
then
would be
like
a weird reason why someone would come and train with you.
Yeah, 100%, you know, and then, you know, you got this whole thing of like, oh, I hope this guy doesn't ask me out or whatever, and then they do, and you're like, for fuck's sake, you know?
That's why you never listened to the advice I was giving.
Yeah, you know, and then there's like, yeah, I don't know why guys think that's a good idea, but whatever. I'm not that guy. So I did struggle with it in the beginning, and then what I've found over the years is, and I've touched on this with V before, but a lot of my close friends are female, so I think, I don't know, maybe I've just like been desensitized a little to some degree, and I do find that I connect with women a bit better than men, and I don't know if that's because I'm leaning a little bit more into my femininity to some level, or just a bit more aware of it and happy to like be in that space. It doesn't really bother me.
Maybe you're just also willing to talk a little deeper about some things like connection and like existential crisis. Not just roll out.
Yeah, well, that's right, you know. And so it has helped me, and having female friends has obviously helped me in that space too, because I've been around them a lot, and often, you know, I sort of understand what they go through in terms of like, you know, where they're at in their cycle, for example, and how that affects them. And like one of the craziest things I was told was like, you have like one great week and then the rest of the month kind of sucks, you know, like, and you're just always going through stuff. So having that knowledge, I suppose, as well, helps me navigate my clients a little bit better as well. And if they need to talk about stuff, like I can, then I feel like I can be soft and open and willing to hear that side of their life, because I've heard it for a long time from my friends, you know. And then on the other side of it as well, one of my best friends is actually my ex-girlfriend. I'm not the one that broke my heart. No, a couple before her. We were together 6 years, so we kind of grew up together, you know. Yeah. I was 22 when I met her, and I was 28 when we stopped seeing each other, and we've been friends for like 10 years in total. We're together 6, and we've remained friends since as well. And she's taught me a lot too, because she's happy to say where I've been wrong, and I'm happy to receive that as well. So I think also having the criticism from a woman, whereas I would normally have been quite defensive, or tried to like say my piece, and no, I don't. That's not me at all. Like you don't know me, and be macho and let my ego get the best of me, and say a little bit gaslighty, to have those open conversations and that dialogue with her, and for her to like call me out on my nonsense, and then for me to be like, hey, actually, like to reflect on it, as opposed to challenging her on it, and to be like, actually, yeah, I do that, That's also helped shape me to be a little bit more empathetic and compassionate towards women. And interesting enough, a lot of my female clients are younger, like sort of 20s, and they all have like either anxiety or depression, or they're afraid of men as well as a big one. They don't trust men, and so I think maybe that's why I get them. Maybe the universe directs them at me so they can kind of feel like there are men that they can trust and be safe around, and not feel like they're being taken advantage of, or that their feelings aren't valid. And that's something that's real important to me, is making sure that you're allowed to feel how you feel. And because of the experience I've had with my female friends and my ex and whatever else, I definitely feel equipped to handle that. And in fact, I want to be there for them. I do feel kind of like an older brother to some degree.
I feel like it's a bit of a boy's perspective with you.
Yeah.
Like it was a boy's perspective on all the things
that
they go through, and it's nice for them as well to have someone to go through for advice, especially if maybe like a father figure isn't there. And I don't know, I wouldn't talk half the stuff I talk with my female friends to my dad.
Yeah.
Whereas like, or if they don't have an older brother or younger brother that they can talk to, I do think it's important to have like friendships or like people in your network with both.
Yeah, I think so too.
And because boxing is so much more than just boxing.
Yeah. It's a great mirror.
You will see so many mental battles in the sessions.
Yeah.
Because I remember how frustrated I got, and then if you're in your head, you don't really do well at boxing at all. So it's good to have that support.
Definitely, it's probably more mental resilience that you get out of boxing than, of course, physical stuff's a byproduct. But yeah, it is a great mirror, and I'm just stoked that Good Vibes in particular, and Ben's worked really hard to get it to a place where it is safe for women to come to. And like what's interesting now as well is a lot of our classes are probably more female than male now, which is real interesting. And again, when we get to meet them and sort of connect with them a little bit more and learn their stories, we do find out that it feels like every woman we get has some kind of issue with a man, which is again interesting as well. And it's interesting for me too, because I feel like some of the men that they've described as, I used to be that guy, didn't invalidated their feelings, or made them feel little, or whatever, and it's looking back on it now, I didn't realize I was doing those things, right? And then when you do realize it, you're like, oh, wow, what a fucking, and then now when I see it in other men, it does, like, I see red a little bit, but I'm calm now, so I just have a different way of speaking to those people about some of those behaviors. I don't mind confrontation, but and I'm happy to have those conversations with people if they need it, or if I feel like there's an injustice there happening in front of me. For example, a lot of my girls say sorry a lot, and it's one of my things. I don't like it. I'll tell them, you're not sorry. Don't ever be sorry for like living. For example, I'm sorry I didn't text you back. I was working, and I'm like, why are you sorry for living your life? You're working. Sorry I made you wait. I'm like, no. I don't want to hear sorry. And I'm happy to wait. You reply to me when you can and when you're able. And I want you to say, next time, I want you to say, thank you for your patience. I can do this time. Okay, cool. And they go away, and then they think about it. And then, so now every time I see them, I can see them about to start saying sorry, and I'll like turn my head and they go, thank you for your patience. And I go, better. So it's just like, it's just this is what I see mostly, is that a lot of these young girls feel like they have to be sorry for being themselves, and it's a bit heartbreaking, really. So that's like it's one of my passions, I think, is to one, not that I feel super qualified to do it, but I want them to know that they can feel how they want to feel, and that they don't have to be sorry for every little thing that they do, because we're all fuck ups at the end of the day, you know. And you not replying because you're working is not a fuck up, you know. And if you start saying sorry for those little things, then you're sorry for everything, and it's like you don't have to be. So that's like one of the things that's high on my priority list right now, and it seems to be working. So
very powerful. It starts with those little things, but then I do think that females always apologize for lots of things, and they don't scared of taking up space maybe as well, or owning who they are.
Well, just scared to be themselves, which is interesting. I do a little survey from time to time just to see where everyone's at and get their feelings on how their training's going and everything outside of training, and if there's anything else that they want to talk about and things like that. And a lot of the feedback I get is they're grateful that they get to be themselves for once, and that's like a general consensus thing across them all. They all say it, so that tells me a lot as well. It's like, you know, a lot of you're walking around feeling like you can't be yourself, and that's a disgrace. Like at the end of the day, and it's not their fault. You know, it's our fault.
It's great that you've been able to hold such space for them, that you're getting a general consensus from that, because that's awesome. And you're finding that's a lot of the women that tend to come to places like Good Vibes. They are looking for first of all, probably they feel anxious. They feel like they can't just enter a place by themselves. So they're looking for that. But then going through those layers, that's what they're really looking for, is a place to be themselves, and obviously to build up physically, mentally and emotionally with boxing.
Yeah. I think boxing's a great way to, or entry point for women especially, is like, because I think you attach boxing to like being strong and power, and you know, maybe I can defend myself and those sorts of things, which is obviously true, but then when you step into that space and realize, okay, there's so much more than that, like I'm going to get so much more than that, and to get that feedback as well of, you know, my confidence is higher and I feel stronger, and I feel stronger in my mind and physically, and you know, obviously strong mind, strong body, strong mind, like those sort of go together, don't they? So yeah, Ben, again, I've sort of blown smoke up his ass now, but he's just done a really great job at having Good Vibes perceive that, and be perceived that way rather, and picking the right people to obviously help facilitate that as well. So, you know, as I said before, I don't know that I felt truly qualified to be that person, but as I've stepped into it a bit more, and as we've walked this journey, I've certainly started to feel like maybe I do have it, you know. And you always have a little bit of imposter syndrome, don't you? You know, it's like, especially when people start saying nice things about you, you're like, well, actually that was you, you know. I was just here as well, you know. You know, you know. And
no, you can take it. It's a skill as well, not saying sorry and taking compliments.
Yeah, that's exactly right, you know. And any my friends, again, they would probably laugh that I say that, because I'm, you know, as they always say, they're like, you're such a Leo, you know. I like attention. Right? But when I do get compliments, I still get a bit funny about it, you know. And then I go home and then I'm stoked as. You know. Yeah. You're like, yeah, maybe I am really good at this, you know. And I talk shit all the time, you know. I'm like, yeah, I'm this, I'm that, you know. But I liked it for the laughs. But I think a little bit deep down, I do feel like I've got it. You know, and you have to, right?
I think you have to have your own back as well.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not just ego, but it's like, I can make it work.
Yeah.
And if you notice you're making a real difference in people's lives, and you're passionate about it and you care, it's good to have that evidence log building up to be like, yeah, I can be this person. Exactly. And that can be part of my identity and who I am.
Correct. Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with that. Yeah, but it's always, you know.
I think everyone goes through that, like, ooh, I don't know if I'm right to be here.
Yeah.
Take up space.
Yeah. But I'm definitely learning a lot about myself as well, as you do.
Yeah, we've touched on your spiritual journey a little bit already, but are there any other tools in terms of like journaling, breath work that you've used for your own journey or that you would recommend or even give to your clients as well?
Yeah, well, the big one for me, I think, was communication mostly, which I know everyone says, yeah, you got to talk and you got to talk. And, you know, it's like, well, yeah, but about what? You know, no one really says what you should talk about, you know, or how you should speak, or, you know, how do you go into your mind to find those things that you want to speak about? Because a lot of people that are depressed don't actually know why. You know, they're not sure at the core of the why, you know. Whereas I think for me and with clients and stuff, the more I prompt them with certain questions, that allows them to sort of, you know, go through the filing cabinet in the old mind to find out really what it is, you know. And then we do find those pain points, and then to see the realization on their face once they've, because I'm not doing it for them, I'm prompting them, sure, but they're finding their own way there, and then to see the relief as well, like, oh my God, you know, I know why now. That's the first part of it, is finding out the actual why part, because I know, and I did it as well. I used to wake up and think, man, life sucks, you know, but I couldn't tell you why. They're like, you know, oh, but you got lots of friends and your job's this and your girlfriend loves you and all these things, you know, and you're like, yeah. So, you know, and I couldn't tell you why. Honestly couldn't tell you why until I really did sit down. And I do think talk therapy is powerful, of course, you know, especially if you've got a good therapist that can prompt you to sort of roadmap back to that single point of where it all began or whatever. And for me, it was my dad. Right? My dad passed away when I was 18, so, and I obviously didn't take it very well, you know, but it wasn't that he died, it was that I felt abandoned, and I didn't know that for a long time. So I had abandonment issues, and to some degree I kind of still have it, you know, or at least I'm aware of it now, you know. And I know if someone, like for example when I split up with Kayla, you know, those shadows of abandonment started to poke its head, and you know, it was what was attached to that abandonment. It was like, you know, it's because of me and I'm not good enough, and all those things that creep up. But now that I'm aware of where that comes from, it's easier to deal with. So I think it's just, one, starting to communicate properly and asking yourself the right questions, or hopefully you got great friends that ask you the right questions to help you back to that point. And then it's just being aware of that. And then now that you're aware, you can talk about it. And I definitely just felt like talking about it often as well got me out of those holes. And so I think that's why I like to, I suppose, spend a lot of time speaking with my clients. Yeah, we're going through combinations, we're talking about punches and whatever else, but in between those rounds, I am asking sort of, I guess, not profound questions, but, you know, I am kind of probing a little bit, you know, to help them find. And then a lot of times as well, they'll go home and be like, I just realised what you're asking me, you know, and then they'll tell me, you know, okay, so I was thinking about it today, and, you know, when you said this, I came to this conclusion, you know. And it's I think the right questions has been the most powerful, and then to be able to throw that down on paper. And then again, I started reading philosophy because I was trying to understand thought, really, because that's what philosophy is in the end. It's just thought, you know. And those three things combined for me, again, weirdly enough, well, not even weirdly, but ironically enough, they're all just different forms of communication. You know, so I just immersed myself in three different forms of communication. So one was reading to help me find the words to explain certain feelings. Writing was to help me put my own thoughts onto paper, to read back and think, that makes sense now, you know, because oftentimes it doesn't make sense in here until you put it down, then you reread it and you go, okay, yeah, you know, and then everything starts to feel a little bit silly, you know, at least it did for me anyway. Can't speak for everybody else, but I've definitely felt like once I was able to get what was in my head on paper and reread it, it just helped me kind of laugh about it more, you know. And my mum always used to tell me laughing's the best medicine, you know. And so I've sort of carried that with me my whole life too. And I think that's why I probably use humour. I used it to mask, definitely, but now I use it to also heal, you know. And it seems to be working for me so far. So that's, I think that's, you know, those are one of my tools, I think, is being funny.
I think it works. Humor's always good.
Yeah. And even like, my mum used to tell me a lot of things when I was growing up, and you know, as you are when you're a teenager and whatever, you're a bit too cool. You don't really take on what your parents tell you, you know. But as I've gotten older, I've realised that all the lessons my mum was trying to give me at the time have actually been like quite profound for me, and that they have stuck. You know, my dad used to say there's no such thing as can't, for example, which I use a lot in my coaching, you know. And one of the greatest examples of it was one of my clients who I do strength and conditioning with. She was always, for weeks, I can't do this, I can't do that, you know, I can't squat, I can't bench press, I can't. And I was always, no such thing as can't, try it. And she'll try it, and I was, look at that, you did it, you know. And the next one, I can't, try it, look at that, you did it, you know. And then over the weeks, eventually, she came in to do a session. She's putting more weight on the squat, you know. And then she's in the steep squat, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "Squatting." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she goes, and then she kind of clicked as to what I was getting at. And she goes, "Yeah, I know, because there's no such thing as can't." And I was like,
So you
know, it was like a
full circle moment.
and yeah, I got a lot of joy out of that, because, and you know, and it was almost like a moment for me in my head as well. It was like, thanks, Dad, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
They go to show, like, when parents are trying to impart their wisdom on their kids, it's never actually fruitless, even though at the time the kid didn't seem to pay attention to it.
Yep.
It's not fruitless.
No,
and I
not
suppose
at
the
all.
same reason why imparting those lessons onto clients or friends, it's never fruitless in the long run, because eventually it sinks in.
Yeah. And
I suppose you mentioned before about like how one bad egg can ruin the whole bunch. But one good person can influence others around them so much more than they might actually think. So,
I agree.
Yeah.
You couldn't have said it better than myself, actually. Yeah. But it's like I say, it's just those little moments there that really affirms why you do what you do and why you love what you do, and seem to be getting a lot of affirmations lately. So there's a lot to be grateful for right now. Well, I mean, there's always a lot to be grateful for. You just sometimes forget, you know. Yeah.
It's good to remind yourself of.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm being reminded through everybody else. I actually got a letter from a client recently on Monday, and I teared up, actually.
A handwritten letter.
A handwritten letter.
That's much
so
more
nice.
impactful.
Yeah, and it was. She come in for a session, she handed me this envelope, and I was like, was this drug money? And she just winked at me, and then she was like, please don't read it till I go. And I was like, okay.
So someone that struggles with like saying the words.
Yeah.
It's easier to write down.
It was easier to write down, and just the way it was like a full page too, and it struck a chord for sure. She said that she often feels that life's mirrored through me, and her life's mirrored through me, and that she called it delusional optimism. And she's just said that she was so grateful that I'm so delusionally optimistic. It helps her get through a day, and that you can kind of, you know, almost, I don't want to say use the word fake, but you can kind of fake your way through happiness, and then all of a sudden you're accidentally happy, you know.
But it's also great acknowledgement of how your energy shows up each day for the sessions, that your delusional optimism passes on to the client.
Yeah.
And that you have such positive energy around you that you then pass it on to what you're dealing with.
You know, it's like, I think energy is transferable, and I think that's why you always say, like, be around people that give you energy and not take it, you know.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time, and you know when, you know, someone's not right for you, your nervous system's all fucked up, and, you know, you always like feel like you're chasing them a little bit, you know. And you can't figure out why, and it's because they're literally sucking the life force out of you, you know. And the moment you realise, like, your stomach's trying to tell you that, the better. And this is why I say with my clients and stuff, I'm like, you know, some of these people and I hate to be the guy sometimes to say, like, you know, this person's not good for you, or the reason you feel like that around them is because they're this or whatever. It is. And again, like, who am I to say who's good to be around and who isn't? But I do like to instill with my clients and friends and family and whoever, if you're around somebody that you feel like you're tippy-toeing around and you feel uncomfortable, but you've got this weird anxious attachment to them, it's get out, get out. And I'll fight tooth and nail to, I don't care if that person's going to judge me. You told her that I'm this, and it was because you are cunt. Like, So that's the worst swear word ever. But that's how I feel about those people.
Yeah.
They're cunts.
I don't think we've had anyone say that on before.
Yeah. I get
Welcome
one of my
to
friends
Australia,
punches me every time I say it. She reckons it's going to be programmed out of me soon, but it's a very great descriptive word, especially if you're passionate about something.
Yeah.
You can bleep that.
Ooh.
And then
Cut it.
yeah, maybe cut it.
If there was like one last piece of advice or like something where you're like, this has 100% shaped my journey and I want everyone to know, do you have anything?
Yeah, I don't know that it's any one piece for sure. I think, the relationship I had with my parents when I was a kid obviously helped shape me in terms of how I should treat people, because they're just the greatest. My mum's still the greatest, but as you know, my dad passed, but then the next part of that would be his passing, because then I went from trying to be the most kindest kid, teenager, trying to love everybody, to destructive and pushing everybody away, to then trying to find that, I suppose, love for people again. And I was trying to find it in all the wrong places as well. So I had kind of not great relationships with friends and partners alike, and they were all totally my fault, right? But again, that was another piece, that taught me again who I should, well, not who I should be, but who I'm trying to be. And then Kayla as well, again, I keep talking about her, but I feel like she's important to my development. And a lot of the women in my life, in fact, have been extremely important and pivotal to becoming what I am today. So I don't know if that it's any one point. It's sort of like, if I was to pinpoint sort of four main things, it would be, my relationship with my parents, my dad passing away, the struggles and rebirthing of friendship with Rhea, and then breaking up with Kayla, And then the fifth one, of course, is coming to WA and Perth. And
That's only just started. Watch out.
That's I know. So I think if I was to say any advice around that, it's and I've said it before, but your life only starts to make sense when you look at it backwards, and all those key points of life have brought me to this time and space, and I couldn't have done or be doing what I'm doing had I not gone through all of those events. So I would say just, enjoy the ride, the good, the bad, the ugly, the extremely great, and then the extremely bad, because that's how it works, right? Because it's all directing you to where you inevitably meant to be. And I think it's just a mindset shift, isn't it? You can go through I could have gone through all those moments and gone down completely different paths as well if I didn't have the right attitude and intention after the fact. I wanted to be better after each of those points, where I could see how it would be easy to just say, well, the world hates me, so I won't do anything about it. It is a mind shift. You have to choose it. You have to, like I said at the start, you have to choose yourself. At the end of the day, you're going to go through shit. That's inevitable. But pick you.
That's so powerful. Pick you is the headline for the episode.
Yeah.
But then I also believe that every person comes into your life for like a reason or to teach you something, and then some will hang around and some will teach you a lesson, and then all of that is making you the person that you are today. That's and shaping you. Yeah,
I often say as well, you're the villain and the hero in somebody's story.
True.
And likewise, like vice versa, with whoever you meet, you're going to have people that you felt like were horrible to you, but then you might meet somebody that the same person was an absolute gem too. That's just how it is. We're not for everybody, and we're meant to be a key piece in their story, and they're meant to be a key piece in ours, and that's just how it is. So just, I guess, be prepared to be the villain and the hero.
I like that.
Wrap point, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Wisdom.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
When people want to come to boxing, want to go to your breathwork events, where can they find you?
_Coach Chaos on Instagram. Yeah, or Good Vibes Boxing, which is on 44 Widdenoom Street in East Perth.
Yeah.
And then I normally post up if I'm doing breathworks with Steve, because that's sort of a bit freelancey, to be fair. So I'm not always doing it, but when I am doing it, I'll post about it. So if you want to be a part of it and let me hold you, then you can. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'm really excited to see what else is coming up in Perth and all the exciting stuff that you've got going, because I think it's a good place.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
All right.
Chaos out.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to hear more and stay updated when we release a new episode. But we would also love for you if you could write a review if this episode has resonated with you. Remember that nothing changes if nothing changes. Reflect on what you have learned today and message us your key takeaways. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, take action for your health, and remember that you are powerful.